Hello, folks. In this activity, you will be learning more about the progressive social reformers, especially through their settlement house movement, which tended to be what female progressives did. Okay, so in this, I just want to make sure I was recording there. In this first section, by the way, that's a picture of Jane Addams on the left-hand side there, of the top picture. Pretty much the most well-known settlement house founders. She founded the first in Chicago, the Hull House, it was called, and the movement caught on after that. Think of the settlement houses as kind of like Reverend Pease's 5 Points House of Mission, although less judgmental and more helpful. Although, again, these progressive reformers did still have kind of their class blinders on. All right. So in this lesson, you're going to look at to what extent they were helpful and to what extent they were condescending and judgmental. All right. So if you look at section 1 here, and again, this will look a little bit different when you look at it. This is what mine looks like, being the creator of this. But the name of the activity is Progressive Social Reformers, Settlement House Movement. And the main question is, what were the attitudes of progressive social reformers, especially settlement house reformers, towards immigrants? In section 2, it's kind of the do now. All right, so if you look at the directions, you're going to read Doc A, which is an excerpt from a popular high school history textbook by David Brinkley. All right, and it's right here. It's 2 excerpts, one about the social gospel movement, which was more like the progressives before they were called the progressives in the 1890s, and then the settlement house movement. All right. Again, that's Brinkley and Appleby, the names of the 2 authors of that particular textbook called The American Vision. So you will read document A, it'll be attached to the assignment, and then you will answer the questions: what was the social gospel movement? How did settlement houses reflect the ideas of the social gospel movement? Describe the people who worked in settlement houses, and describe the people who received services at settlement houses. Based on Doc A, how do you think European immigrants at the turn of the century viewed social reformers like Jane Addams? And I marked this as a quiz, so once you submit it, you'll see feedback in the form of the correct answers. All right, in section 3, all right, you're going to read, you're going to take notes. You're going to read documents B through E, all right, which is the rest of the documents in the packet that will be attached to the assignment. All right, about dance halls, which today you would call it clubs. A few of them are still around. Dance halls that were around back then, like Hammerstein Ballroom in New York City, is still there. Roseland Ballroom. All right. You will read these 4 documents, and on the Google form, you will take notes in section 4 from each perspective. You will read these documents, and if there's anything in there that argues that they were generous and helpful, you jot it down in that section. Anything in those 4 documents that argue they were actually condescending and judgmental, then you will write it in that section. No need for complete sentences. Just jot down notes. All right, because ultimately you'll be, and this is the directions described in section 4. All right, ultimately you'll be drafting a counterpoint line of discussion, pretending to be kind of arguing with yourself. All right, so if you look at section 3, I'm kind of jumping around here. Sorry. This is called a virtual interior debate. All right. You are going to do a point-by-counterpoint debate on the social reformers of the progressive era. As we have seen, many of the social reformers during the progressive era were U.S.-born, white, middle-class, Protestant, educated women and men. But the settlement house movement was mostly women, since they couldn't be professors. We may refer to them as WASPs, white Anglo-Saxon Protestants. And please keep in mind that the settlement house workers that we're looking at here were the least condescending and judgmental of the white reformers. Folks like Roosevelt and Wilson and Taft would have been more judgmental, and Henry Ford, people like that. Some historians have characterized these social reformers as generous people who wanted to assist the poor. Other historians, especially nowadays, this is more modern historiography on progressives. Other current historians have characterized them as condescending and elitist people, sometimes racist people, who wanted to make immigrants become more Christian and American. The word they would use would be Americanize. If only these immigrants would Americanize, they would be so much better off. And that should be a part of your dialogue. So today's question is, what were the attitudes of progressive social reformers toward immigrants? So take your notes from each perspective in section 4, okay, in those two spaces. And then in section 5, write the actual debate point by point. Just do bullet points, complete sentence bullet points. You know, what you would say to the other person back and forth, all right? And that's it.